I guess the first thing is roll call.
Here.
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 Okay, and I guess the next thing is the reading of the minute, or the approval of the minutes.
I move we approve the minutes as written.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. And I guess this is,
May I jump in on this
yeah,
one?
please do.
For the election of officers, there's a couple things going on right now. Again, our chair is not here tonight, and it might be best if we think about delaying it, because we're also going to have board appointments on the first week in July, and we'll have new board members. So if it is okay with the board, when we put this on here, we didn't have all that information. So I thought it might be better to wait until the next meeting, if that's okay with the board.
Do we need a motion or anything like that?
I make a motion we delay this item to the next meeting.
Go ahead. Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, before we continue, could I also indulge you with introducing our attorney who is here? She's new with us, and if I could, let her introduce herself.
I'm Kira Hauntz. I have about 17 years of local government experience, the most recent being down in the city of Vero Beach. I'm very glad to be here and looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess Frank is
Mr. Frank Molnar is here, and he'd like to provide a presentation to you. So he has some video, I think, and let him come up to the podium if that's okay with you. Thank you.
Good evening. I can't remember, is this the same board that I presented to? Yes. The Main Street in the Beachside, are those now one board? Okay. So I put together a video, basically a YouTube video that talks about Wynwood Arts District in Miami. I don't know how many of you have been down there. It's basically an area that was probably the worst neighborhood in Miami 15 years ago. Now it's the #1 attraction in Miami. We put together in your presentation, in your packet, talked about some of the visitors. This is from 17. Actually, it was saying 1.3 million out-of-town visitors annually in 17. I read recently that they're getting over 100,000 visitors a week from not only out of town but local people coming down to that area, and it's unbelievable. And it's basically become the largest street arts district in the country. And you can look at the numbers, obviously, unbelievable. I know recently the newspaper talked about the property values are back of where they were before our last financial meltdown, but as I'm sure all of you are aware, Beachside is still hundreds of millions of dollars below the assessed value that it was over 10 years ago. So there's been a lot of talk, a lot of new energy, hopefully earmarked towards Main Street. There was something in the paper today about a property changing hands. You're going to see other properties that are changing hands. But I think by designating this area as an arts district, and just, I think Joey's going to show a video real quick of just kind of give you guys an idea of the Wynwood, just to give you an idea what it looks like. But if we can actually learn from what they've been able to do down there and take a piece of that to our community, it could be something that's really thriving. So I'll let you guys run through that. I don't know if Joey's got any sound for us tonight or not, but
the whole neighborhood is one giant canvas. for the world's best street artists. This is Wynwood, the place to be in Miami for artists and entrepreneurs like us. I'm Mally, and this is Valentina. We run a small gallery, manage artists, and provide advice to modern and contemporary art collectors. Looking at it now, it's hard to imagine what this place was like years ago, before the walls, doors, and shutters were transformed into some of the world's most magnificent street art. It's been called a museum of the streets, and the art didn't just brighten up the walls, it brought this neighborhood to life. It's what brought us here. Now, there are hundreds of businesses and more than 70 art galleries, museums, and private collections, including us. People from all over the world flock here to places like the Bakehouse to admire the art, to study art, and of course, to create art. This is Crave Art. That's his artist name. He's known as the Big Butt and Monkey Artist. He organized a group of local artists to work on this wall. He's been creating street art here since he was a kid and has murals all over town. One is outside Miami's first brewery. Yup, locally handcrafted beer by Lewis himself. Now this is real art. All this work really does make a starving artist. Good thing so many new restaurants and bars have popped up. They're all amazing and very creative. You're basically eating in a gallery. Panther Coffee is pretty much the heart of our neighborhood. They take coffee to the next level. It's all fair trade and roasted by hand, right here at the coffee house. This is Zoelle. She's a local DJ and loves the scene here so much, she created this super cool app, the Wynwood Tour Guides. It tells you all about each of the walls, the galleries, and the artists. Wynwood is definitely something you need to check out. It's probably the only place you'll get inspired by staring at walls and watching paint dry.
Thanks, Joey. So that's just kind of a taste of it. In your packets, you know, it talked about the 2017 annual report, talking about spending, the amount of business. Obviously, this is a much larger area than our Main Street area, but, you know, for years and years, I think I mentioned over a year ago, the Beachside Redevelopment Committee, who spent over a year getting together every month of trying to make recommendations for Beachside. Obviously, East ISB was the number one priority, and the close second was what can we do with Main Street to try to revitalize that area. We've got 2 bike weeks during the year, which is great, but the rest of the year, it's not a whole lot going on. I've talked to multiple property owners down there. They're like, I won't mention any names. They're like, God bless you. It's getting worse. We need to do something in this area to bring visitors here, to bring locals down here, and it could be the epicenter of our entire community. It's not there yet. I think art could be a great piece of it. Just kind of going through the packet, you can see all the numbers, the amount of property tax increases. I mean, from 13 to 17, they had a 270% increase in property taxes. I mean, that's fantastic, obviously. They paid over $16 million in property taxes to that business district from Wynwood. Again, it's a much larger district than Main Street. It talks about their board a little bit. Bless you. I think the last time we got together, we had a couple different murals that we got approved. Basically, what I've done since then is put together a charitable organization called the Daytona Beach Arts Alliance, so we can raise money to try to help fund some of these arts projects. There's been talks of possibly a brewery down there. There was talk today of possibly a hotel down there, which would be great. But as all of you are aware, that's in a CRA, so there would be a great opportunity to work with the city, the things that are already in place to incentivize the type of businesses we would like to see down there. And I just wanted to kind of present, to give you an idea, not necessarily as edgy as maybe what's going on in Miami, but, you know, if we can set up something in place, an arts alliance where if we're trying to move that area forward, I understand your position is you can't really judge art, and some people might think art's different things, so we've tried to put together a collaborative board of business owners and people who are in the arts community to maybe take a look at those things so we can move it in the right direction. The last thing we want is, you know, cheeseburgers airbrushed on the side of businesses, or Cokes or pizzas, or we want to make it actually a reason, you know, like some of the artwork that, you know, we previously got approved. This is an artist from Manhattan that would love to do it, that has roots back to this area, that we got approved. You know, we looked at the other one, which is this one that could be really cool, but we want to really give people a reason to go down to Main Street, and that way we'd all benefit from this community. So just kind of wanted to share the idea. I mean, I'm sure many of you have seen the wings down on Main Street in DeLand. I mean, that could be an aspect of it too, but just giving people a reason to go down there and experience that area, and visit the businesses that are down there. And obviously you've got to start somewhere, and if we can create some traffic, I think that would help create new businesses that would fit in and be successful. So I appreciate your support of it, and we'll continue to keep moving forward. I didn't know if you have any questions from what we're trying to accomplish, but, you know, I think it's a start. You know, you've heard people say, well, if it was all new buildings and this and that, it would be great. Well, that's never going to happen. You can talk to John Albright from Consolidated, who brings investors here all the time, and he said the number one question he gets from investors outside, they say, where do you start? Because they take some International Speedway and shows them the properties on the beach, and they look around and they're just like, it's overwhelming. So I think ISB is moving forward, which is going to change the whole first impression to our Beachside, to clean that up and streetscape it and redo the road and all that. And if we can do something great on Main Street, I think we'll have some great momentum going in the area. So I appreciate your support and appreciate your time this evening. And I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything, but
I have one comment.
sure.
As far as where you start, it doesn't really matter as long as you just start.
Exactly.
Because once you start, it can expand outward from there, and that's all we need to do is just start.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have a question. So what you're proposing is that the Daytona Beach Arts Alliance would be a group that would jury murals that are coming in, as opposed to just bringing them before this kind of board?
Yeah, and not saying anything bad about painting, combs, and things like that, and scissors on the side of your
Right,
building.
no, I
You know,
understand.
but
Has the city, you know, have you spoken with any of the, you know, the commissioners, or how do they feel about relieving this board of that kind of, have you broached that subject?
we have, and I think they're looking into it and the legalities and everything else, and we're trying to learn what other communities have done. For instance, St. Petersburg, who has, 12 different arts districts, trying to learn what other cities have been able to put, be able to put in place,
Right.
and how we can move it in a positive direction.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea, I really, really like the idea of having some, better qualified people to assess the murals that are coming in. But also, I think what you may find, and you may have already, I've seen comments about, some of the artwork that we've already gotten approved. You're going to have pushback with people that, number one, they're afraid of spray paint. That just sounds like graffiti. They equate street art with vandalism. So you're going to have that issue. And then, the Main Street being a smaller area, there's not such a, there's not 200 spaces, so you can have such a wide variety of stuff. I think in DeLand, it's all historical. I'm not saying we have to do all historical, but will there be some parameters about, keeping it Daytona-centric, or making it something like, you said you want people to come here and see it. We want it to have something that, doesn't scream, we're trying to be Miami or we're trying to be DeLand. So if your group is probably going to be doing that kind of thing, then I think it's fantastic. And you can kind of sell that to the public and say, listen,
Right.
just don't fear change. It's
Right.
coming, and let's at least we're doing something.
Thank you.
He said, thanks.
I would say that our old buildings are a strength in up on how old buildings are better for new construction is very expensive. It makes it, I think it makes it a neat palette for art too, as an old building that has character. It's very
I agree.
exciting. Yeah, thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
I was going to go along those lines. One of the comments I was going to make is I do have concerns in losing the historical significance of what we have on Main Street and some of the areas over there. And I hope that as we move forward that that's a priority, because we have, once those kinds of buildings and structures are lost, we never get them back. And so
What's interesting about Wynwood, you've been able to see, where I talked to somebody, I was down there for the boat show a few months back, and he was a real estate investor. He goes, 15 years ago, he goes, you couldn't give away the property in this area because it's surrounded by projects and not really the best part of Miami. It's right by 95. I mean, it's not surrounded by the river and the ocean and everything else, but he says now it's like the hottest area, and I think there's a lot of synergies there. I think if you can create a new vibe down there, obviously we want to see our beachside successful. We want to see people living down there that can, with disposable income, that can support businesses. And you hear a lot about Delray and different price destinations in Florida, and that have been able to get revitalized. But it's everybody working together. I mean, as you know, that's the only way this area is going to be successful, is moving things forward. And hopefully we can build on our past, but obviously offer something for the future as well.
And I will comment that I feel that that current development that's going on and current renovations have embraced that, and I've seen that in quite a few of the new businesses we've seen in the last couple of years, that they're using our old buildings and enhancing them. So I hope that that's something that's a priority for us.
Like these two lovely people who
Exactly.
Palapub and cleaning things up. So it's great. It's like you said, you got to start somewhere. So
Start.
And
absolutely.
I would hope, I see art, I would hope that this would include sculptures, three-dimensional art, and kinetic art, because I think I'd like to see multiple aspects. My only question is, and it's probably to Reed, when you designate something an arts district, how does that impact the kinds of buildings or the kinds of businesses, or does it, that you can have?
Well, first of all, there isn't a arts district. It's not a regulatory. It could be. It could be an overlay district. You want to create it, and it'll be whatever you put in it that will hold it back or maybe give it a boost. I think the approach right now is to focus in on looking at all the other areas, not just Wynwood, but St. Pete and other areas that have shown success in different ways, and do it differently. And we don't have a set of buildings, for example, on Main Street that are set up like Wynwood, where you have a lot of old and industrial warehouse type buildings, so and with millions of people around it, with a lot of disposable incomes that are coming right to that area. They're close by and have now brought in everybody from all over the world, essentially, to come there. So, but you got to start somewhere that's going to get it started, and I think that's the challenge going forward, is how do you do that, and then what is the regulatory part that you want to put in place. An arts district or different kinds of districts can oftentimes be a line that's drawn, or just an area that's identified that's really promoting, marketing, and just be in the private sector, and not the more you bring it under government, more likely, it's my opinion, I'll put it that way, you're going to limit some of the things you can accomplish. And Wynwood, I think, as it grew out of the lack of regulation and the people that did what they needed to do, that were creative and artists, and they didn't do this in any organized fashion. And then it got organized, and everyone saw the value in it, and you saw the business improvement district information I put in the packet. They've tried to create an area in an arts district and define it a little differently, and perhaps what you might want to do in this case. So I would say it wouldn't be my first choice to create a district there, but to really create an identity. No different than if you call something an E-zone. It's so.
Kind of like our new design district down on Baloo Road.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And
Yeah, I think that's my concern, is
Yeah,
I'd like
yeah.
it to remain eclectic, that there's
Right.
there's opportunities for a lot of different types of entities, and that's my concern, is you get people that then want to narrow it down to certain kinds of things. So moving forward, that's just something to keep in mind. Yeah, thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. Just so I'm completely transparent, I don't own any property on Main Street. I'm just passionate about this community. I'd love to see it continue to move forward and be successful and be not only a world-class destination for visitors outside our area, but make it somewhere that locals alike that could go down there and enjoy the area. So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay,
Let me make one comment.
okay.
Al, I know you did your homework about Miami and all that, but the reason why it's so successful is the city in Miami, the city and the businesses and the local people all work together. I was there, I did a lot of research on it when you talked to it about it last time, and I talked to a lot of people, and let me tell you, the city was involved. And the most important thing is they give incentives for businesses to come in. Exactly. It was a very important, I know you mentioned the CRA, but it was a very important for them over there, because the first subject on the list was the CRA. How could we bring in the brewery, the restaurants, and all those first-class businesses in a place that was so badly, and it was incentive. And that's why, but the other.
times worse than what our.
Believe me, I know, even beyond what was South Beach 30 years ago, that area. But I want to make another thing, is what my colleague James said exactly. Got to start somewhere. And they did the same thing. They started somewhere. That's exactly what we got to do here. And the other thing too is you got the support of the business people, even outside Main Street. Because if this happens, it's not only Main Street who's going to benefit out of it. Everybody around is going to benefit out of it. So I just wanted to let you know that. Thanks.
Yeah, I got one question for you, or a couple. Is this art guild, this is not just a Main Street art district, it's really citywide, isn't it?
Well, it would be nice to incorporate arts into all areas, and, I'm just kind of focusing on Main Street, but sure, you could have a Midtown, you can take a look at what they're doing at One Daytona with wrapping in the utility boxes. I mean, I'd love to see art in our community. Look at what's going on down in Beach Street area. I know Jack White, who is part of our group, trying to do some public art displays down on downtown, but yeah, it's the whole city. It's not just, we only want art in Main Street. We'd love to see it citywide for sure.
But, well, I guess what you're saying is Main Street is the spark, or the site.
Well,
to start.
there's already been some of this public art down in downtown off of Beach Street area for sure, and we're trying to kind of learn what they've been able to do to put in place as far as rules and regulations and everything. But as we all know, Beach Street, this area, there's some great energy, new construction, things happening. Is how can we capture that same energy for Beach Street and carry it to Beachside? And I think by doing an arts district or arts component, I think it could really help. And again, it's like you said, it's working with the city. It's like, I don't know if any county commissioners, city commissioners are here, what have you. They're like, well, what can we do? I'm like, code enforcement. I'm like, at the end of the day, you've got to you've got to clean up that area because, you know, it has to be a safe area. You know, John Albright came and spoke to our committee at the Chamber of Economic Development and talked about, you know, arts and this and that. And he's like, you know, the millennials, as long as it's, you know, it can be a little gritty, but if they think it's safe, they're fine with living down there. So, I mean, if you can bring in people that are possibly working at Brown & Brown, that have disposable income, that can help support these venues, it'll thrive. So it's capturing the energy that's already happening in our community. Absolutely.
And I think one thing good about having it in the Main Street area is our neighborhood isn't particularly vulnerable to gentrification in the way that some neighborhoods may be that have people have been living there for generations and could suffer greatly by like the emergence of expensive hipster coffee shops and stuff. Like
Right.
Our neighborhood isn't a bad place to start. There's a lot of second, like just vacation homes or people just, they're not really living there, so.
Well, one of the recommendations for the Beachside Redevelopment Committee to the county and to the city was incentivizing people that will live in those areas full-time. So one of the recommendations I made was making a local heroes program, you know, lifeguards, teachers, police officers, firemen. How can you incentivize those people to live in the core area and get in, as you know, there's a lot of people who aren't living there full time. They might be renting, or it's transient, or, you know, so the more people that you can put down their roots in that area, I think it'll help move that area forward for sure. Any other questions, or?
No,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time for public comment. We've got a couple of speakers. John Nicholson. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Sure.
Oh. Yeah. I'm sorry. These are comments on item 5.
5. From the public.
Sorry.
Not a problem. John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview, Beachside. I'm familiar with this. If you'll notice, right down the very center is 2nd Avenue. A neighbor of mine had a business there, a nightclub, and he left for 5 months to tour, and I ran the nightclub. I'm very familiar with Wynwood. It's not bad to start off with 10,000 pieces of art already there. It was an industrial area that the criminals got to, spray painted everything. It looked terrible because back then street art was not street art. It was just graffiti. So they were starting with 10,000, which is not a bad way to start. It's like starting with bars on Main Street. Secondly, just south of it is the Arts Center. A lot of money was put into it. We look at the Russian project and say, my God, it's massive. It's $200 million. Well, they had 6 projects larger than that going on right around this area. So that doesn't hurt. So what happened is the city was growing north. This was the very next step. We don't have that. All right? We don't enforce our own laws. We have liquor laws. I've been after the city for, 15 years to enforce our liquor laws, and don't. Luckily, we got through 2 years ago. They went down Main Street. If you really you weren't open for business, and you couldn't benefit from Bike Week and Biketoberfest. Well, guess what? Take a walk down Main Street and take a look at the landscaping. Take a walk down A1A and take a look at the landscaping. We don't enforce squat. The city does not, literally, how do you get around the city to get anything done? Because the city refuses to work on the beach side. Jim Chisholm said to someone outside of the city that he would prefer not to have people living there. All right? What do you do with those of us that live there? Well, get rid of you guys. That way we can move new businesses in, we can move condos, etc. Well, a lot of us that live there don't want to give up businesses there, start, and they flounder. People try to put businesses on Main Street, and the city staff says, no, you can't be there. Go over to Beach Street. You're fighting an uphill battle that you may not win. If you're going to fight for anything, that art is not what you want. I mean, literally. Art, yes. Graffiti art, no. Because there's not anything there to start with. There are a couple of murals, but there's no nice murals. It's not this eclectic stuff. So if you're going to start with anything, start with your restaurants. You've got 13 restaurants there, 3 of which don't serve food, which I can never understand. All right? You have to start with what you've got the most of. Wynwood had graffiti everywhere. Every time you turn around, there's a full wall of graffiti. And the thing that you've got are restaurants. There's a woman that comes before the harbor board every time, and Evelyn says, there are 3 things tourists go for: shopping, eating, and the beach. Well, guess what? We've got 13 restaurants that they don't serve food. Joe's Crab Shack, for all its good and bad points, serves food year-round. Anywhere else? Cruising, if you can get a seat, serves food year-round. On the corner.
You can get a seat? What do you mean?
The pub does on Main Street.
The pub?
Peanut
Peanut and George's, they serve it year-round,
Rock serves
7
food,
days a
Peanut
week?
George's serves
They've been there really, let me see, in the last 40 years.
No, these
They-
are new owners
Thank
since
you.
November.
That's my point, exactly. All right?
new life. Hatching.
Yes.
Hatching.
But all the ones that are there is the ones that we should go after. If you have a restaurant license, the least you should have is a kitchen and be able to serve food. And I don't mean a $49 grill. Your ordinance says $10,000 worth of kitchen equipment. $49 grill does not satisfy $10,000. So if you're going to go after anything, go after things that will make a difference. Go after the appearance. Called Florida Power and Light. We have 2 really bad intersections, Grandview and Wild Olive. The buildings block the street, and it looks very dark. Florida Power and Light said they would put lights in there. They would upgrade all of our lights so that it would be bright. $800 a year, and it can be taken from the CRA, and the city said no. $800 a year for enhanced security on Main Street, and the city said no. So be careful when something new comes along. There was a gentleman that said, well, look at what other cities are doing. Go to Duval Street, go to Bourbon Street, see what businesses are successful. Sounded like a great idea to me. And the city said no. Well, look for what's successful and incentivize them. If it's a candle shop, then subsidize them. We're allowed to do that with CRA funds. So I'm asking you, there were reasons why Wynwood was so successful. It had nothing to do with art. I would love to see art. If you go down, there's a big bull sitting in the middle of Wall Street. Everybody and his brother takes a picture with that. What do we have like that? What do we have that people will come and have a photo op with on Beachside? That's what we need. Thank you.
Next, Krista Goodrich. Yeah.
All right. Krista Goodrich, 816 Main Street. Full disclosure, I do own a business on Main Street. And just like the bull at Wall Street that I have also taken a picture in front of, I would love to see the Wings of Daytona or other artwork that people would walk down Main Street and take pictures of. I think it would be a phenomenal addition. As an owner there and knowing the other merchants and meeting with them at our merchant meeting, Main Street Merchants meeting, most of us, if not all, are 100% in support of this. This will bring life to Main Street. It'll get people to walk down Main Street. Right now, we do have a lighting issue. It is very dark at night. And during the day, a lot of shops, as you guys all know, are closed. So this will give people a reason to walk down the street. In fact, there's really easy ways to do little markings on the road to show them how to follow the path to see the artwork. Our building's going to have a mural on it one way or the other because we own the building and we're allowed to put a mural on it. So it does have to start somewhere, and it's going to start at 816 Main one way or the other. And there's some other buildings that are definitely on board. So as a merchant and an owner, I definitely think this is a wonderful thing for our community. I hope we wildly embrace it. It's innovative, something that we're begging for in Daytona is innovation. And this is just one more thing. Side note, hopefully that brewery scene will be filmed in my building. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks. Oh, you want me to tell about that? Yeah, while I'm here. Okay, so, and while I'm here, if you're bored on June 30th, or even if you're not, come out to Main Street. We're having our first annual pub crawl. So this is an idea launched by yours truly to get new blood down Main Street. We love our bikers. I have nothing against them, but we do want to get other people down Main Street. And so this is a pub crawl. 9 bars have built, or we're in the process of building, our putting greens, and they're all cool. Some of them have like spinny things and jumps and all kinds of cool stuff. The guests all pay $5 to enter, and the charity is the Chase Academy School for Autism, based here in Daytona, that's going to benefit from the proceeds. All $5 goes to that, and then they're getting a goodie bag from us merchants. They're going to vote on the best putting green, and then we're going to have top 3 team and individual prizes for the people that are putting. So please spread the word about it. Everyone says they want Main Street to be better, but we need local support for it to happen.
Next, we have Ann Ruby.
Hi, Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. First of all, I want to thank Frank for all his efforts in getting this started. I think it's a great place to start, and you do have to start somewhere. So I respectfully disagree with John. I think this is a wonderful place to start, although John Nicholson's suggestions are valid also. But this is a great place to start, and thank you. As to lighting, I remember in the spring of 2017, Jim Morris, Reed Berger, and I think Dave Waller and Sandy and I walked around Main Street and we checked out what was going on in Ormond, and we were told there were going to be big lights coming on Main Street. What's happening with that?
Well, it's gone through a lot of delay, and I know that Public Works is still charged with and working with FPL to put those tall lights in to light the street and the sidewalk. So it's supposed to be happening.
Okay, so it's like over 2 years old that it's...
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been a while.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, I think it's great to talk about, we're going to create an area with, attract a lot of disposable income, but the Brown and Brown jobs are going to pay about $40,000 a year. A lot of our jobs don't pay enough to create disposable income if you're living in luxury housing. So I think we have to be very realistic about getting optimistic that somehow we're going to create this huge amount of income generating jobs, I guess, or that we don't have enough disposable income in the jobs that we attract to our city. You know, if you're making $40,000 a year, that's $20 an hour. And that's what you need to afford a basic apartment, not a luxury apartment, a basic apartment. So let's make sure that all the decisions that get made are geared to having realistic for our area amounts of disposable income, not the disposable income you're seeing in Wynwood. But again, I think this arts project is a great way to start. Thank you.
Okay, next item is redevelopment projects update.
Yeah, and appreciate having the opportunity to talk about the lighting. That was one item, and thank you. The other issue I wanted to bring up is some recent articles that we did see this weekend and today, and I think you've heard enough about the fact that there are people in here that are buying some property and want to consider some development, including maybe a hotel on Main Street. We'll see. I don't think there's a lot of detail to that yet. It's just an interest to make some things happen, and by someone who appears to have a lot of resources to do so. So that's great news. And then the second thing is a article that came out that was referred to as well. Had a picture of closed on that front of the newspaper, and the city takes issue with that because if you go up closer, and from the email that I received from the owner of that property, they're in process of renovation of not only the store they've already spent several $100,000 improving, but they also have this other adjacent space they're now putting their money in. And so they had a sign up there that said closed, and then underneath that they said that they're going to be open, I think it's in September. So you're seeing someone who's actually doing some positive things. It didn't come across that way in the paper. So that message has been sent forth. The commission's also been notified and made aware of all the facts related to what we found with that particular article. But again, a lot of positive things happening on Main Street for us. And so everyone keep pushing, go to the events. There's more to do. That's my report.
Comments from the board? No, on the projects.
Yeah, I was going to have a discussion on that tonight because I also called the owner of that building and had a long discussion with her because I was very upset, not just because of how she was depicted, but the other businesses on that street are all open, including the brand-new cigar bar, which is right there at the end of the street.
Right.
You know, so my concern is the newspaper has put some things in that aren't accurate, and even though the city did put a nice article on their Facebook page, the retraction in the paper is very small, and so we still have this public perception that went out that there's these derelict buildings, and you know, this should not be happening to people that are investing money and that are interested in the future Main Street. So I'm just struggling about the disconnect with the newspaper, what the city says, and the reality of what's happening. And I also had concerns about, I think, some of the comments in the paper, like there were no places to eat around the Ocean Center, that there's no place to eat on Main Street. And so again, you know, I don't know as a city what we do about that, but it's like we're butting heads against people that don't seem interested in actually finding out what's going on. So I don't know how you change that so that we have more support for people, for potential investors, for the ones that are already there, and for the people that we want to attract. But it's been very upsetting the last couple days, the things that have been in the paper. Yeah.
I've got a comment. The lighting on Main Street, you said, has been in the mill for like 2 years?
Yeah, I'm not going to contradict what the date was back in 2017, whatever that was. Yeah, I couldn't remember that accurately, the date, but certainly since that time, there's been the charge to try to get the lighting upgraded down there, and the solution that we found technically is not the decorative lights that's going to solve the issue in making those brighter, but it's going to be the overhead lights, the taller lights. And so those were selected. Again, I don't know where the issue is held up now with the process, but it's gone back and forth with FPL.
Well, I mean, to me, if we wanted to put a spotlight on Main Street, pun intended, we should do that. And I see Commissioner May is here, and it's her district. I would encourage you to, at the city council meeting, let's get the lighting moving. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's informal. Yeah.
20 to make Commissioner Zone 3. My address is 944 South Peninsula. So I was actually just reflecting on an update that I received, and this is what it says. So as you know, I was put into office. I won November 14th, and as of 12/11, I started approaching this. I had to get my feet wet and learn a little bit. So I went ahead and I started bringing this up with the lighting. It was a major concern. And 12/11 we started. Continue with updates, 12/26, continue 1/18, continue 1/25, continue 4/22, 4/25, 5/21. This is me continuously requesting and receiving feedback. The final response is, as of 6/11, the agreement is in the city manager's office for signature. And this regards the lighting on Main Street. So I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. This is my latest update, and I get them regularly and frequently, and I see them every week. So I have been on this. It's been a major concern because it's your concern, and this is where we are right now. So when Mr. Reed says, yes, it is coming, it is coming. How do you feel with that, Mr. Dennis?
Fine. We didn't have any updates, and so.
Sure. Any time that you have a concern that you would like for me to address in an official capacity, all you have to do is come and find me. And I think from now onwards, I'm going to request a copy of these minutes because I'd like a list of what you would like to see happen so that I can start to work down a list. As yet, I've tried to find out what you need, but it's much easier if you give me a list and say, could you please try accomplishing A, B, C, and D? And then I'll report back to you. I'm more than happy to do that for you.
Okay.
All righty?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is public comments, and we have Thomas Coffrey.
Hey guys, Tom Caffrey with 816 Main Street, the Pallet Pub, new business. We're excited to be part of Main Street. The city of Daytona has done a great job with helping us out. Mentioned some incentive. We did receive some incentive in order to open, so that was some of the help that we got with fascia grants, interior grants, and things like that. So that did help us along. So we thank you very much with that. We're currently trying to get the brewery passed, so we're real excited about that. But in the process of doing that, we're currently seeing some issues with buildings around us. Directly behind us, we have a building that's actually falling into our building. There's pieces of wood off of the roof and things like that. I think it's been called the livery before. I don't know the address. South Coates. So 14 South Coates? So 14 South Coates. So that building, there's a bunch of debris, roof debris, actual trusses that are falling down behind our building. So that's just my main concern, is it's hard for us to keep up with our own stuff when it's physically falling into our building. So pretty much all I have. So thanks for hearing me.
Can I comment on this, please?
Sure.
Okay. 14 Court Street, I'm the property owner for that. I'm sure the latest for you guys to know, the last permit was issued by the city a week and a half ago. When the last permit was issued a week and a half ago by the city. The city issued a permit a week and a half ago. Everything is already been in the work for a long time, but the last permit has to come out. It came out last week. You'll see it soon. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, let's go to board comments.
I'm really excited.
Oh, wait a
to
minute. Okay, John.
Item 7. Public comments.
Okay, you're right.
Yep. Okay, several things. Over the last 40 years that I've been coming to the meetings, I don't know, maybe 20 some odd years ago, the kiosks were mentioned. About 10 years ago, the kiosks were mentioned. Reed said that he would work on it. He would get it done within the year. It's been about 10 years. I think we need to work on the kiosk. That's right there on the corner of A1A. Secondly, we definitely need to put the lighting in North Grandview and North Wild Olive. The poles are there. All we have to do is put the lighting in there. Which reminds me, the lighting on those big poles, I'm not quite sure you want them. There's so much crap down that street. Adding more to it, it is not going to make it any more attractive. Froggies, they went through. You have to go back. The mildew is still there. The outside storage is still there. News Journal article, it sounds really bad about our tourist trade, but their figures don't add up. One, when you collect sales tax of 6.5, it's totally different than if you collect the sales tax of 8.5. We have a 6.5, and they compared us with somebody who's collecting 8.5. Secondly, there's a difference of opinion on if you have hotels that are closed, do you get the same amount of revenue when they're closed as you do when they're open? Because we have 5 of our major hotels are still closed. So we're not getting any revenue from those closed hotels. So how do you do your comparison? The article never mentioned that. It matters a lot. We do have about 107 places you can grab something to eat in the Main Street area. 107 is not too bad, okay? Graffiti, we have graffiti all over the place, and that's why I'm not real happy about adding more graffiti. Art, I love. Graffiti, I'm not real fond of. Coates, if you go down Coates, it's considered a 80 roadway, but it does have 6 feet of sand piled up along the side of it. So if you have a 9-foot wide road, 6 foot of it is covered with sand and weeds and garbage. It does prevent the traffic down that, and it's very unsightly, especially considering it's right in front of the bus terminal. So there are things that we can do as a city. Landscaping, very easy to do. Code enforcement, very easy to do. There are a lot of things we can do now, but the city refuses. It's been 2 years on Coates. They were going to put a Jimmy John's in. They just paved it last week. The city still didn't get around to taking the sand away. So I took half it away, they took the rest of it and paved it. Otherwise, they would have paved around the sand, which is a stupid thing to do. But we have to be our own best guardians. Thank you.
Start with board comments.
Okay, back to me. I'm really excited to see the artwork coming both down B Street and down on Main Street. I think it is an attractive thing, and whether it will draw in more businesses, I don't know. But it's nicer to walk around in areas like that and see that. So it makes it a more comfortable environment. And as I said earlier, you just start somewhere and let it spread from there. Those kind of things tend to snowball after a little while. As far as the News Journal, my experience in reading it is that they're a little sensationalist on a lot of items. And right now they're on the decay of Daytona, and that they did that big article and they seem to be promoting that. And I read a lot of negative things that I wish they wouldn't write. I hope that other people see that as well and recognize that it's a little bit yellow journalism. They're trying to get readership and get people all up in arms. I don't know what you can do about that because the News Journal's going to do what they're going to do. Other than the city putting in a retraction and hoping that people get that word gets around. As far as John said about the lighting, I kind of agree. Where are those poles going to go? Are they going to be in the sidewalks? I mean, they're going to put in tall lighting. They're going to put in big poles, and how is that going to be for foot traffic up and down, for pedestrian traffic up and down Main Street? Any comments on that?
Yeah, they'll be in the same location where you see the trees and the other vertical elements that are outside of the pedestrian way, which is closest to the facades of the buildings. So it should be out of the way of anybody that's walking. It'll meet all the ADA requirements.
Right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I guess that's my comments for this meeting.
Amy?
Yeah, regarding the News Journal article, I mean, it really is unfortunate that they chose that picture and they didn't do their homework by, contacting. So that was a huge mistake, and they definitely need to retract that. But what can we do, coming back to, John's comments, he pinpointed code enforcement, which is something that I've harped on and harped on and harped on. If our facades look good, if they're up to redevelopment area standards, and which is a step beyond regular code enforcement, then people will come down Main Street and they'll say, what is the News Journal talking about? So, how to contradict fake news with reality, you show them a beautiful street, or as beautiful as we can, and the city can expend a little bit to do that. The planters being painted battleship gray doesn't help with the feeling of beauty that we want there. We're not asking to graffiti them, or even start, the start of the Arts District is going to be wonderful, but right now, there are things that could be painted on Main Street a little bit more refreshing. And the other issue that I continually harp on is parking. My questions this go around are about the county lot on Main Street. I have noticed there are parking meters now at the lot across from the Peabody, where people can go and park there and put some money in and visit Main Street and walk down. But there's a lot right on Main Street that is always empty. The hop cycle needs a place to park. Other people that are venturing to those businesses on Main Street There's not a lot of parking. And I wonder if you have spoken with our council person or the county council about opening that up, because that was something else we talked about during the Beachside Redevelopment Committee meetings, was that was about the time that lot was purchased, and I thought it was going to be available for city use.
Okay. Sure. On the what we call Lot C, they're part of the county lots that are out there. There is discussion about taking that forward and have some refinement of agreements with the county. I'm not involved in those discussions, so I don't have a status to give you, but I do know that there have been some meetings and desire going forward. So things are resuming, and it was, I thought, a little stagnant for a while, but it seems to be that there are discussions about trying to put together some agreement there so we can do more with the lots that we have. And they can and do provide for some of the event activities as well when there's events out there on the street.
Right. Well, during events, that's great, but there are people that have businesses throughout the year. So they could use that, we could really use that parking now. So it would be great to kind of drive that issue, because I remember them saying, or it's even written somewhere, that it would be during county Ocean Center events, it would not be available, but the rest of the time it would be available. Does anybody else remember that as part of the, yeah.
The next step is to actually physically put in the
So we need a piece of paper.
the striping,
Oh, gotcha.
meters, or whatever's going to be there to finalize that. But the concept was put together. It's just now finalizing all of that and actually see something happen.
All right, that's exciting to know that's moving ahead, and maybe that would be an awesome place to park here. Then on the where A1A and ISB meet now, we have this huge compilation of properties that belong to the Streamline, and they're sort of partial. Some are paved, some are grass. They are parking large vehicles with signage on there. I mean, sort of seems to be kind of haphazard. I don't know what, while we wait for the roundabout that may or may not happen, is there any cohesive plan for what will happen while that property waits to either be sold or redeveloped? For example, it's a redevelopment area, so there are standards for, fencing, signage, landscaping, and I'd like to, see that move ahead. You don't have to answer any questions about it, but it's pretty important that very, very visual corner of our tourist area doesn't wait 10 years for a roundabout to happen. And then lastly, again regarding code enforcement, because I forgot to mention this, let's remember that the city can take action against a property that is in terrible condition. They can, if the owner is not going to do it, the city can go in and expend the funds and ask that those funds be placed as an assessment on a tax bill, so we will get the money back. So if a roof of a building is falling into another building, or somebody refuses to fix their property to redevelopment area standards, we can do that and be reimbursed. And that will also help this fake news effect, because when people drive, if they turn down the wrong road, it's going to look, like a war zone. So code enforcement, parking, thank you. I'm done.
All right. The arts thing is very exciting. I don't think it was stated that it necessarily has to be graffiti. There's lots of possibilities for murals that are more appropriate, and I'm pretty sure that ours wouldn't be anything. It's different. We're a different area, just like we're different from DeLand. It's very exciting stuff. Landscaping, extremely important. As in wearing my hat as a permaculture designer of sustainable human settlements, I am realizing how important landscaping is for stormwater management. Green infrastructure, they call it. It's a nationwide thing. Lots of cities are using putting a lot of green infrastructure into their plans. It's as a complement to the conventional stormwater infrastructure, green infrastructure is relatively inexpensive. It performs really well. It's nature, so it's permanent, and then it has a bunch of other benefits as well. Trees and other landscaping reduce crime. They promote walking. So they're helpful to public health. Eyes on the street, lively streets. They have so many benefits. So I am actively engaged in an ongoing effort to promote more. The word I use is puffy landscaping, just puffy, three-dimensional, not super flat and mowed, not excessively pruned, puffy. The more leaf area and grass area that we have absorbing the rainwater, the easier it'll be on our stormwater infrastructure. We won't have flooding in so many parts of town. And it's a nice complement. It's just like the art. It adds so much beauty. And let's see. Oh yeah, and I'm excited, Gilbert. I'm excited about the livery project finally starting to move forward. Do you have a time frame for that?
No, I don't.
Are you talking like a year, a couple years? Less than a year, yeah? To get to finish it?
Contractor has a deadline.
Okay.
Great.
Very exciting. Thank you. That's all. Yeah.
Graffiti won't be incorporated into those murals or be the murals. It's only the artwork murals that we've been looking at and discussing, right?
Unless somebody wants to change that and put it in there, because we got a lot of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm not going to comment on that right now. I'm sure we'll have a chance to have that discussion down the road. So I already stated I was very concerned about the newspaper articles, and I know the city did quite a bit to work with the particular business owner, and I appreciate that you reached out to her, and hopefully she's going to be okay with what happened, because she was so upset when that happened that she was ready to pull her business, after everything. So people just need to be aware that, yes, there are things in the paper that we cannot control, and I would just ask everybody here that's involved in Main Street or local businesses or in the residences, if you see things that are not accurate, call people to task for it. Make those corrections, because it won't change as long as they can continue to do that kind of sensational kind of writing. I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, as far as what we're going to see on Main Street and moving forward, I have huge issues with maintaining historical buildings and the character of what we have. I love hearing that St. Petersburg and Miami and Destin and all these great places have done all these great changes and things, but Daytona has a very unique culture, and that culture does involve motorcycles. It does involve cars, and a lot of other things. But I think that we really need to keep that in mind and keep that uniqueness. Why is Daytona different from everybody else? And focus on that as we move forward, that should be part of the planning. The other concern I have is that I'm having a sense there's some conflict maybe with A1A businesses that are a mile away from Main Street, that people are not being as mutually supportive as they should be. And so I would urge everybody to, we're all in this together. Any support that we can give to one business is going to come back and help you also. And on that great note, I met today with, I guess, the new owners of Smokey's Cigar Bar. Rob and Roscoe, and they wanted to pass on to you, Reed, that they had a wonderful experience dealing with the city, and they could not be happier with the support that they have received from the city in getting their business. So I wanted to give you a kudo and something pleasant and nice for a change, and they said thank you very much. Yeah.
Over here.
Yes. Since we're in the inaccurate information, this is the first I heard any one of my properties is falling apart on somebody else's property. It's the first time. I would have heard something about it from anybody. So, yes, and Ruby, you're looking at me. If anything falling on anybody's property, they would have known. I'm sorry?
It's been falling apart for years.
But that's not the point. The point is inaccurate information saying that it's falling on somebody else's property. I don't think so. Okay, just letting you know, thank you. As far as the main street, I think people don't realize that there's a lot more support from the business on A1A. The reason why, because Main Street has been having these block parties and they've been having these events, and it's been very successful for them. So we all got together, and I have properties on Main Street, I have properties in Ormond, I have properties in the south. Most of the businesses on A1A on the strip, we all got together and we said, okay, what could we do to get some crumbs out of Main Street? So it's in the works right now to find out. So the art district, like I said to Al, it would not only benefit Main Street, but there's a lot of, and you talk to any business on A1A, any business on A1A, they'll tell you, listen, they welcome any ideas, doesn't matter if it's on Seabreeze, Silver Beach, or anywhere, because people walk up and down. The strip on Daytona Beach is from Silver Beach to Bel Air. Now it's going to be a longer strip because there's bigger new businesses coming in a little bit further, but that's for another day. But as far as the district, the art district and the Main Street itself, I think it's great. And, we haven't had any good news on Main Street for a long time, so hopefully it's a positive, Now, the other thing I want to make a comment to you, Mr. Reed, is you're talking about the design district. That's going to go far. Okay, just to let you know, that's going to go far.
When you say design district, I'm sorry, I just want
Blue
to
Road.
clarify. Blue Road.
Blue Road.
Yes.
Yeah. My partner owns the new lighting and everything else that he did over there. I own a lot of property across the street. There's a lot of things coming for Blue Road. So I want people to understand, it's not only concentration on Main Street. There's a lot of things happening. You know things that you can't talk about. I know things that we can't talk about because it's still in the early process. But it's not only Main Street. There's projects going on Harvey. There's projects going on right past Bel Air Plaza. People don't know that, but there's almost a $20 million project going on over there, and it's going to be a store. One store. It's going to be a gift store. As big as Ron John's Surf Shop, 35,000 square feet. It's right next to the county parking that they're building. You can see the structure over there. Those are people we brought from Miami, and we convinced them that Daytona is a good place to invest. So they came in and invest. So there's a lot of things going on. So the concentration is only on Main Street. There's a lot of us, business people on Beachside that, listen, anybody that comes to Daytona Beach and invests in Daytona Beach, my properties goes up. So it's in my benefit to bring people to town. It's my benefit to support businesses. You understand? So there's a lot of things going on. Hopefully, you can talk about them in the near future. And I know a lot of people here would be, very happy to hear about them because it's part of Daytona that needs to be redeveloped. I have 4 projects in the Alvin myself, but unfortunately, I spent 4.5 weeks almost. This is my first day I came out of the hospital on Friday. So I stopped everything. Now everything is back on track. You and I will be getting together, but there's a lot of people. I can tell you there's a lot of things going on in town. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple of things. I know during the county redevelopment, Beachside redevelopment meetings, they talked about parking, and it just seems like we could wait for the county to do stuff, but it's also that the city could be starting stuff. Something as simple as the unloading zone on A1A where, by the band shell, scheduling someone to schedule what trucks unload at what time, and if you have a slot, like Walmart has trucks scheduled out, days and weeks out, and if you don't make your slot, you lose it. So You know, every time, not every time, but a lot of times when you drive down A1A, there's a truck unloading and somebody's parked in the unloading zone, or, you know, to me, it's a simple matter of scheduling it and sticking to the schedule. Code enforcement, it's not code enforcement, it's the teeth in code enforcement. Remember, not too long ago, we had that $15,000 parking lien on a house, and the city council reduced it to $1,000. If code enforcement doesn't have teeth, what are we doing? And in terms of lighting and all that, are we over-regulated? You know, it was talked about 2 years ago about lighting, and now something is happening. So, you know, maybe we're over-regulated. Maybe we should look at cutting some of the red tape and getting stuff through. And going back to your point, if you're making progress and you're working on stuff, but if we, the people, don't know it, it's not happening. So I really wish the city could come up with some sort of website or whatever that posts things that commissioners and so forth are working on. It'd be helpful. Yes. That'd be great.
Garbage and clothes, pads, actually that I've been process, but
Yeah.
I apologize, Commissioner May. So at each commission meeting, I give everybody an update on what's been going on. And I call up the appropriate parties, number one, and we discuss it. And so that everybody can hear publicly, because I too noticed that no one was saying, and this is what I've been working on, number one. The other thing is, I am working on trying to have something mailed to everybody in Zone 3 and probably the whole city, but for my zone of focus on things we've been working on. Question is, how do I do this? I've been working on so many things all around Zone 3 that if I were to list every single thing, and I'm happy to do it for you because it has been a weekly activity since I started. So if you want that, I'm happy to do that, but understand that it's been zone wide, and it's been a lot since November 14th. Alrighty? But I'm more than happy. I have no issue showing you my work product whatsoever.
Okay.
Alrighty? Thank you.
Okay.
I want to make a comment. I know there was a big issue about the parking. Okay, big issue parking around Main Street. Well, just to let everybody know, right next to the 14 Coach Street is a 225 parking lot that we opened all week for free for anybody to come to Main Street except weekends. I know that the city asked me and asked my brothers to do it, and we did it. There's a lot of people that are opening their parking for tourists. And the reason why, we all know the reason why, because anywhere you go, it says paid parking, paid parking. Not a problem. We solved an issue with Harvey, where there was a lot of things going on that were not supposed to be happening. But we have all the tools for Main Street. We have to bring them in. You know, they say if you build it, they come in. Well, that's exactly a perfect example for Main Street. If we change a little bit Main Street, they would come. Because there is a free parking, there's free everything. So it is a very big thing that's going on. There's a lot of people working behind closed doors as far as the Main Street area. And I know that, Mr. Commissioner, I know you have a lot of things.
I'm more than, you know what, I welcome the fact to have a conversation with you. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I have no issue with it. If you, again, tell me what it is you want me to focus on, then I'm happy to come up and say, hey, this is where I am, or I'm sorry, I'm not getting any headway here, because all I can do is represent you as best I can and keep pushing for it. And not everything you want, you're going to get.
These are things you would like to see, and you, I'm hoping, are the representation for the business community and the residents, because this is the closest that I'm probably going to get to seeing as many people at once. I'm in the community, I'm accessible, I've made myself extremely available to everybody, so if you have a list of something, by all means, present them. Thank you.
With that, I guess it's a wrap.